Hi, today I was going to talk to you about some interesting things that I have in the works, but instead I need to talk about something that happened to me a couple of days ago. I met my husband in Philadelphia. We live in a suburb of Philadelphia. I was working down there. We went to dinner, and then we came home, and we got off the train. We live maybe 5 blocks from the train. We live in a very middle-class neighborhood, nice neighborhood. So we walked, up this main street, and we turned on another street that's also pretty wide. There's almost always cars driving down it. It's very well lit. We get about a block and a half down, and I feel someone put their arm around mine. My husband was standing next to me, so at first I thought it was him. And then I hear a voice in my ear saying, "Shut up, shut up, shut up." And I thought, what is my husband doing? So I looked over at the man, and there was this 17-year-old kid, and he's trying to grab my purse from me. And my initial reaction was, what is he doing? What does he think he's doing? And I think I said that. I said, "What are you doing?" And I grabbed the purse back from him, and then he pulled out a gun. And for a split second, I was like, oh, well, he's not going to do anything. I could overtake him. He's just he was no taller than me. He was thin. But then, reason kicked in or whatever, and I was like, oh crap, he has a gun, he could shoot me. So I threw the purse on the ground and threw myself on the ground and kind of cuddled into a ball that way, hoping if he shot me he would shoot my chest or something where I wouldn't die. And then he looked to my husband, and my husband was carrying a briefcase, and he said, "Give me your briefcase, or give me your bag." And so my husband, later he told me he didn't really know what was going on until he thought this guy had just kind of fallen into us until I threw myself on the ground. He thought that the guy had pushed me, and he was actually just about to swing his briefcase and hit the guy when the guy turned the gun on him. And so my husband said, "Here, just take it." And the guy took his briefcase and ran away, and apparently there was some other kid with him that I didn't see, but my husband did, and they ran away. And that there was actually a neighbor or a man that was sitting on his porch across the street, and the whole thing happened, and he didn't see it because he wasn't wearing his glasses. He was on the phone. He saw that there was something going on, but he didn't realize that we were getting mugged. And anyway, we called the police, but because thankfully they didn't get either of our phones. They were in our pockets. They didn't ask us to empty our pockets. He was he was frazzled. He seemed more scared than we did, honestly, with the whole situation. And so, my husband called the police, and the police came out. And, the first thing they asked us was, can you describe the person who did this? And as I was describing it, I realized it was a young African-American male in a hoodie, and about 17. And I was so upset. I was like, why? Why does it have to be that, if we were going to get held up? It's just so sad to me because he was a straight-laced looking kid. He was really, really cute kid. Clean shaven. If he didn't have a gun and he wasn't trying to steal my things, in any other context, I would have thought that he was just a really nice looking kid. So it makes me really sad that he felt the need to do this. But then the more that I got thinking about it, the more I realized that, well, I basically lived out George Zimmerman's fear. He thought that Trayvon Martin was the 17-year-old, African-American kid that was up to no good because he was wearing a hoodie. In fact, of course, Trayvon Martin wasn't doing anything wrong at all. Whereas I actually was held up by a person with a gun. So I lived what George Zimmerman thought he was living through. But I'm so glad that I did not have a gun, and I'm so glad that my husband did not have a gun, because if my husband would have grabbed for a gun, the only thing that would have done would have meant that either he would have been shot by the guy or he would have shot the guy, and either way, no one's life was worth the amount of money in my purse. I wouldn't want that kid to die. I hope they find him, because obviously we don't want people running around taking people's property with guns. It's very scary. So I hope that he's caught. But I don't want him to die. I certainly don't want him to die. And so I think that, going through this experience has really made me realize that, gun advocates will often talk about how there are these rare instances in which someone owning a gun saved their life because they were able to kill an intruder that may have otherwise killed them. But then in this situation made me think, if my husband would have had a gun in his pocket and he would have reached for a gun, I think it's almost certain that this kid would have shot him. And there's no way he would have been able to get the gun out of his pocket before this kid would have been able to shoot him, because the kid already had the gun out. And so if my husband would have had a gun, we would be more likely to be dead, not less likely to be dead. And so this whole situation makes me so committed to the idea that having guns out on the street is not a good idea. Having people running around armed is not a good idea. Having laws that allow people to shoot at people that they're just suspicious of is not a good idea. Having a culture in which somebody thinks that it's a good idea to go out and investigate what's going on and not let the police handle it and chase around kids with guns is not a good idea. And so, as someone who actually was a victim of a violent crime, in the sense of he had a gun and he just grabbed something away from me, I don't want to live in a world where now people are arming themselves and we're all, like commandos or something. I think that's really frightening, and I hope that more people would realize that having guns only leads to more people dying. It doesn't lead to any better sense of security or safety. So, thank you very much.